February 20th, 2025, 30,000 feet above the Zagros Mountains, an American F-15E Strike Eagle sliced through Iranian airspace, its twin engines roaring through the night. The pilot, call sign Viper 1, had flown this route a dozen times before. Routine reconnaissance, standard operating procedure. Just another mission in a career built on calculated risks and surgical precision. But tonight was different. Tonight, the Iranians were waiting. At 2300 hours, an SA-20 surface-to-air missile battery locked onto his aircraft. The threat warning screamed in his headset. He had 4 seconds to react. 4 seconds between life and death. He banked hard, deployed countermeasures, flares painting the sky like falling stars. But the SA-20 is a Russian-designed Hunter built specifically to kill aircraft like his. The missile impacted the left engine. The explosion tore through the fuselage. Fire erupted in the cockpit. The F-15E, one of the most advanced fighters in the world, became a coffin hurtling toward the Earth at 600 miles per hour. Viper 1 pulled the ejection handle. The canopy blew. The seat fired him into freezing night air. Parachute deployed. Radio beacon activated. And as he drifted down into hostile Iranian territory, over 50 miles beyond the border, he knew one thing with absolute certainty. They were coming for him. Within minutes, the Pentagon activated the largest combat search and rescue operation since the Gulf War. 155 aircraft, SEAL Team 6 insertion teams, Apache gunships, A-10 Warthogs, all of this mobilized for one man. But this wasn't just about saving a pilot. This was about sending a message that would echo across every military on the planet. The United States does not leave its people behind. Ever. The mission had a name. Operation Granite Shadow. And what happened in those 72 hours would rewrite the rules of modern warfare. Before the F-15 went down, tensions between the United States and Iran had been simmering for months. Naval skirmishes in the Strait of Hormuz, proxy attacks on American bases in Iraq, drones shot down, warships shadowing each other in international waters. The situation was a powder keg, and every intelligence analyst in Washington knew it was only a matter of time before something ignited. The F-15E Strike Eagle is one of the most lethal aircraft in the U.S. arsenal. Dual-engine fighter bomber, top speed over Mach 2.5, capable of precision strikes deep in enemy territory, advanced radar systems that can track dozens of targets simultaneously, weapons payload that can level entire compounds. It's not just a plane, it's a flying weapons platform designed to own the sky. The pilot flying that night was a veteran with over 2,000 flight hours, combat experience in Iraq, Syria, Afghanistan. Call sign Viper 1. His real name is still classified, but what's known is this. He was one of the best. Cool under pressure. Tactical genius. The kind of pilot you want flying when things go sideways. His mission that night was a high-altitude reconnaissance run along the Iranian border, gathering signals intelligence, mapping radar installations, routine surveillance, in and out. Nothing that should have gone wrong. But the Iranians had been watching. They knew the flight path. They knew the timing. They had mobile SA-20 batteries positioned in the mountains, waiting for exactly this opportunity. This wasn't an accident. It was a deliberate act of aggression, a trap. When the missile lock warning screamed in Viper 1's cockpit, he had seconds to react. He deployed countermeasures, flares screaming into the night sky, trying to confuse the missile's heat-seeking guidance. He banked hard, pulling G's that would have knocked out most pilots. His hands moved on instinct, muscle memory from thousands of hours in the cockpit. But the SA-20 is a beast, built to kill exactly this kind of target. Built to win. The missile impacted the left engine with the force of a car crash. Shrapnel tore through the fuselage. Hydraulic fluid sprayed across the instruments. Fire erupted in the cockpit, flames licking at his flight suit. The aircraft's control systems failed. Stick went dead in his hands. He was flying a 20-ton brick with no way to steer it. Viper 1 knew the aircraft was done. He had one option: eject. The ejection sequence is violent. The canopy blows off with explosive bolts. The seat fires you into the air with enough force to crack ribs. Then you're out, falling through freezing air at terminal velocity until the parachute deploys and slams you to a stop like hitting a wall. Viper 1's parachute opened at 28,000 feet. He was drifting down into hostile Iranian territory, over 50 miles inside the border, with enemy forces already scrambling to his last known position. His emergency beacon was transmitting his location to every friendly asset in the region, but it was also a homing signal for the Iranians hunting him. He could see headlights below, vehicles racing toward his projected landing zone, helicopters in the distance, searchlights sweeping the mountains. They knew exactly where he was going down, and they wanted him alive. The moment his beacon went active, the Pentagon's Joint Personnel Recovery Agency received the signal. The secure phone rang in the White House Situation Room. Within minutes, the call went out. SEAL Team 6 was activated. The 160th Special Operations Aviation Regiment, the Night Stalkers, spun up their helicopters. Apache gunships from the 101st Airborne were wheels up within the hour. But this wasn't going to be a simple extraction. The Iranians knew exactly where Viper 1 had gone down. They had mobile units converging on the area. Revolutionary Guard forces, heavily armed, well-trained, and they wanted that pilot alive. A captured American pilot on Iranian television would be a propaganda victory worth more than a dozen successful attacks. The White House faced a brutal calculation: launch a massive rescue operation and risk igniting a full-scale war with Iran, or abandon the pilot and watch him become a hostage, paraded on state television, used as a bargaining chip for the next decade. There was never really a choice. The doctrine is absolute. The United States does not leave its people behind. Operation Granite Shadow was greenlit. 155 aircraft mobilized across 3 countries. F-22 Raptors for air superiority. EA-18G Growlers for electronic warfare, jamming Iranian radar and communications. KC-135 tankers for mid-air refueling. A-10 Warthogs for close air support. And deep in the mix, 2 MH-47 Chinooks carrying SEAL Team 6 operators. The insertion point was a dry riverbed 12 miles from Viper 1's last known location. The SEALs would go in on foot, fast and quiet. Extract the pilot before the Iranians could close the net. The window was tight. Maybe 2 hours before Iranian forces sealed off the entire mountain range. But the Iranians weren't sitting still. They had helicopter gunships in the air, ground patrols with thermal imaging sweeping the mountains, checkpoints on every road leading out of the area. They knew the Americans were coming, and they were ready to make it costly. The SEALs hit the ground at 0200 hours. 4 operators, light loadout, night vision goggles, suppressed weapons, medical gear, satellite radio. They moved through the mountains like ghosts, using terrain and darkness to stay invisible. Every step calculated, every sound monitored. One mistake, and they'd have 100 Iranian soldiers on top of them. Viper 1 had gone to ground in a shallow cave, hiding from the Iranian search teams that had been sweeping the area for hours. He could hear their radios crackling in the distance, voices shouting in Farsi, boots on rocks, engines revving. They were close, too close. He had his sidearm drawn, knowing that if they found him, he'd have to fight his way out or die trying. Then his emergency radio crackled. Low volume, 3 words that changed everything. Viper 1, we're coming. The SEALs reached his position at 0430. They had 30 minutes to get him to the extraction point before the Iranians closed the perimeter completely. Viper 1 was bruised, cold, but operational. They gave him water, checked him for injuries, and started moving. But as they started the exfiltration, an Iranian patrol stumbled onto their position. 6 soldiers, AK-47s, radios, gunfire erupted. Suppressed rounds from the SEALs dropped 2 hostiles before they could radio for backup. The rest scattered into the rocks. But the sound of gunfire echoed through the mountains. The Iranians knew exactly where they were now. Apache gunships overhead received the coordinates. Within seconds, Hellfire missiles lit up enemy positions. The sky turned orange. Explosions rippled across the valley. The A-10 Warthogs screamed in low, their Gal-8 Avenger cannons shredding Iranian vehicles attempting to cut off the escape route. The sound alone is enough to break morale. 30mm rounds ripping through armor like paper. The extraction Chinook came in hot, rotors screaming, door gunners firing into the darkness. Tracer rounds lit up the night. The SEALs threw Viper 1 aboard. The helicopter lifted off just as RPG rounds streaked past the fuselage, missing by meters. F-22 Raptors engaged Iranian fighter jets that scrambled to intercept. Within minutes, 2 Iranian aircraft were shot down. The rest retreated. The message was clear: do not follow. 72 hours after the F-15 went down, Viper 1 was back on a U.S. carrier in the Persian Gulf. Bruised, exhausted, but alive. The mission was a success. 0 American casualties. 1 pilot recovered. The Iranians never even got close. The Pentagon released a statement. Minimal details, operational security. But the footage leaked anyway. Helmet cam video from the SEALs. Apache gun camera footage. The whole operation laid bare for the world to see. Iran lodged a formal complaint with the United Nations. Violation of sovereignty, act of aggression. But privately, they got the message loud and clear. Touch an American asset, and the response will be overwhelming, immediate, unstoppable. Operation Granite Shadow became a case study at the Naval War College, the largest combat search and rescue operation in modern history. 155 aircraft, SEAL Team 6, Apache gunships, A-10s, all for 1 pilot, because the United States military operates on one principle that transcends politics, budgets, and risk assessments. No one gets left behind, ever. Not in the mountains of Iran, not anywhere. That's the standard, that's the promise. And Operation Granite Shadow proved it wasn't just words. It was doctrine written in fire and steel, and the unbreakable will of the men and women who wear the uniform.